Okay guys, so we are back in the sewing room again today, and I thought I'd take a few minutes and go over some of the really cool tools you can get at your local Harbor Freight store for your sewing space. Now we use all of these tools every day in our space, and they work every bit as good as things you would buy at a sewing shop, and really honestly probably saved us a few bucks along the way. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you what we got. Okay, so the first thing I like to pick up at Harbor Freight for our sewing space are magnets. Now, if you have followed us for any amount of time, you know that we are big proponents of using metal work tables and toolboxes in our space. And one of the things that comes along with that is being able to use magnets on them. So this strip magnet, it's only $4 or $5 at Harbor Freight, and it's indispensable. It's got holes on each end so you can mount it anywhere you want. But what we like to use it for is in our thread drawer. Now, our thread drawer is awesome and we love it, but the more thread we accumulate, the more of a mess it can become very easily. So being able to place these magnets in the drawer in any configuration that we want allows us to keep all the different categories of thread nice and tidy, and we can open and close the drawer and shake it around any amount we want without the thread ever getting loose and running amok. So if you get a chance, give these strip magnets a shot. Okay, so the next thing that we like to get at Harbor Freight are these hook magnets. Now they come in a package of 4, and they're little circles with a screw in and out hook, and honestly they're just awesome to have around. You can just use them kind of like a pin-up note holder like on a fridge, or you can, if you've got, again, if you have metal tables that you work with, if you've got cords that are kind of dangling and in the way, you can run these up underneath your tables and string up your cords, kind of like Christmas lights on your house. They're just a very, very handy tool to have around, and they're not very expensive. They last forever, and they're just a really indispensable tool. So there's another great one from Harbor Freight. Okay, so the next thing I like to pick up at Harbor Freight for my sewing space are these awesome mechanics gloves. They're like $1.99 a pair, and what I use these for is free motion quilting. Now, when I started learning to free motion quilt, I was borrowing my wife's gloves, which were way too small, and they were like bright yellow. And I thought, well, why can't I just use mechanics gloves? They've got a really cool kind of a rubbery tip on all the fingers, and turns out they work really well, and they breathe really well on top, and they fit me really well, and I think they work out just awesome. So mechanics gloves for free motion quilting. Okay, so the next category of things that I like to pick up at Harbor Freight for my sewing space are these awesome magnetic trays. Now they come in all different shapes and sizes. They've got really powerful magnets on the back, and the way that we like to use these are we like to use the little ones for the pins and the basting pins, I think they're called. And they hold a bunch of them. They stay still, they stay where you put them, and they keep them organized, and makes your job a little easier. I also like to use the wider ones for these quilting clips. There's not a lot of metal in these. They're just kind of the spring is all there is. So you kind of have to have them spread out, and you kind of want them all touching the base. But you use them, you pick them up, you throw them in there, and they stay where you put them. So it's awesome. Those are the magnetic trays. Okay, so the next really cool thing that I like to pick up at Harbor Freight for my sewing space are these awesome shears. Now, what I figured out when I started sewing is that there's a ton of different kinds of scissors and shears, and you got to be really careful when you use which kind. You don't want to mess them up or hurt them, and their only things are designed for cutting certain kinds of fabrics, and there's just all kinds of rules when it comes to scissors. Sometimes you just want to cut stuff, and this is what those are for. These shears are super comfortable, super inexpensive, very easy to use, really sharp, and just really convenient. It doesn't matter what you're cutting. It doesn't matter how thick it is. It doesn't matter. You're not going to hurt them. You don't got to worry about them. You're not going to use your good scissors on bad stuff. And they're just really, really nice to use. So really like these shears. Okay, so next on the list are these picks. This is a 5-pack assortment of picks that you pick up at Harbor Freight. And these things are just awesome for your sewing space. You've got straight and 90 degrees and corkscrews and hooks. You can use them as a stiletto. You can use them to help place really small pieces of applique when you're trying to sew those into place or iron them into place. We've all had to dig thread out of our bobbin cases, right? Especially on some of your vintage machines. And this gives you 5 different choices and specialized tools on getting in there and digging stuff out and getting stuff cleaned up. So these things are indispensable. A couple $3 for a whole set of them, and I use them all the time, and I love them. Okay, so next on the list is rulers. Now, when I first started sewing, basically we were stacked up with these awesome, plastic see-through rulers that are all in inches, and they do a great job, and we love using them. But a couple of things that I don't like about them is they're not long enough to go across the whole cutting mat or over a whole yard of fabric, and they don't come in centimeters. Now, at Harbor Freight, they sell different sizes of metal rulers. They're not going to warp, they're not going to crack, they're not going to break. And they come in inches and centimeters, and I do quite a bit of centimeter patterns when I sew, and so these things work out just wonderfully. Again, they're inexpensive. They get the job done. You can cut long pieces of fabric, and you can measure things out as you're doing it. And I just think that they've been a great addition to our sewing space and have made my process a lot less stressful and a lot easier. So metal rulers from Harbor Freight. Okay, so the next thing on the list is one of those high necessity items, and that would be a good magnifying glass. Now, if you're an old guy like me and you just can't see stuff, you really got to have one of these around. I use this whenever I thread the needle on a sewing machine, or when I need to do some maintenance on a machine and I need to get a good look at the inside of under some gears, or in a dark spot, or underneath a bobbin case. Having a good set of eyes here is invaluable. So a couple dollars of Harbor Freight, a nice magnifying glass. Okay, so the next thing I want to show you guys are these awesome Harbor Freight dent pullers for doing body work. And we're not taking dents out of cars today, right? We are going to use these for our rulers. Now, we've got two different size rulers, big and small. We've got two different size dent pullers, big and small. And so all you have to do is take your cool ruler and stick your dent puller right in the middle of it, push down, lock the suction cup, and now you've got a really handy, easy to use ruler that you can pick up and move around in it, and it's easy to use, and it gives you a lot more leverage when you need to hold it down to keep you from having your ruler slip on your fabric. So it makes it really nice to use. That is the small one. You pop it off, take it off. And the big one makes a huge difference on manhandling this large ruler. You can just stick this right down in the middle of this, push down, lock it down, and you have a really handy ruler now that gives you a lot of leverage. Now, if you're having trouble with your suction cup sticking, all you got to do is just take a little bit of your squirt bottle and squirt a little bit of water on here and stick it down there, move it in a little bit, and then lock it. And that'll help, the water will help seal it up and give you that nice suction that you need. So incredibly handy. They have really improved my cutting game, and I just love having them around. So suction cup dent pullers from Harbor Freight. So the next thing we have here today has been definitely a game changer and is one of our favorite tools in our sewing space, and that is this magnetic power strip. This thing is absolutely a game changer. It's got all the power cord plugins, plus it's got USB plugins as well. It's a surge protector with a power on and off switch, and it's magnetic. So what we use this for, since we have metal tables and we have a movable modular system in here with wheels, you never know when we're going to have a need for power, and we just stick this thing right on the back of this table right here. And when we have a sewing machine on here, or an ironing board, or an iron, or anything that has power, a lamp, we can run right back here, and instead of chasing down and moving tables and going to the wall to plug stuff in, we just grab our power strip, and it's kind of always here ready for us whenever we need to use it. So absolutely a game changer. Highly suggest getting yourself power that is local and is easy to get and access in your sewing space. It will definitely improve your game. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you is this really cool tool tray from Harbor Freight that is really made for hanging on the side of a toolbox. It's got holes in it for screwdrivers, and maybe you're made to have lubricants and cleaning supplies and things like that to hang on the side of your toolbox. This works really well for us because we use metal tables and toolboxes in our sewing room. So this thing is awesome. It's got really strong magnets across the back and a spacer, rubber spacer that keeps it vertical for you. We can stick it anywhere. We like to keep it under the table here in our little work area so we can reach stuff under the table that's out of the way. It'll stick to anything that's metal, and it is just a really nice, usable, versatile, mobile shelf, basically. So kind of what you can do with it is I like to take my needles and pins. I can stick some screwdrivers in here. You can set it up however you want and just have these things kind of sitting around. Because it's metal, I can also incorporate more magnets to it. So I can now hang my magnetic hooks on them, and I can hang scissors on them. And so you can line it with shelf paper or fabric or anything else that you like. You can do really anything with this. Have it anywhere you want. Since it's down, we keep it down under the table. It isn't on top, getting in the way, but it's super accessible and usable. And this has just been a really good addition to our sewing space, and I think that it would be a good one for yours as well. So anything that makes your sewing room more efficient, more effective, and allows you to have more fun with less stress, man, it's a winner in my book. So anyway, that is our magnetic tool tray. So that's it, guys. These are the things that we have picked up at Harbor Freight to make our sewing space better. And let us know. Do you guys, I'm sure this isn't the entirety of it. If you guys have some other ideas, things you've picked up at hardware stores, at tool stores, at dollar stores, I'd love to hear some of your ideas, some creative things you guys have picked up as well. So I think that's going to do it for today. Please don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, when it comes to sewing machines, you can never have too many. See you next time.